There's a moment almost every woman has felt when the vibe is right, the energy feels magnetic, and everything seems to flow so naturally that it almost feels meant to happen. He looks at you a certain way, he leans in just a little closer, and suddenly there's this quiet question in your mind. What is this really about? Is it connection? Is it curiosity? Or is it something he hasn't said out loud? Because here's the part no one really explains clearly. Not every man moves toward intimacy for the same reason. And more importantly, not every reason has anything to do with long-term feelings. Sometimes it looks deep, but it's actually simple. Sometimes it feels meaningful, but it's actually momentary. And this is where things get confusing, because you're not just experiencing the moment, you're feeling it. You're reading between the lines. You're trying to understand what it means. While he might just be responding to what he feels right now without thinking much about what comes next. That doesn't make him bad, and it definitely doesn't make you wrong for feeling more. It just means there's a gap between intention and interpretation. And once you start seeing that gap, everything changes. You stop overthinking his actions and start understanding his patterns. You stop asking, why did this happen? And start seeing what this actually means. Because when you understand the real reasons behind his actions, you don't just protect your heart. You start making choices that actually serve you. Sometimes, what feels like deep interest from a man isn't really about building something with you. It's about how being with you makes him feel about himself. And this is where things can get confusing, because on the surface, his attention can feel intense. He compliments you. He shows desire. He gives you that focused energy that makes you feel seen. But underneath all of that, there's often a quieter motivation driving him. The need to feel validated. You see, a lot of men don't openly talk about their insecurities. They don't always express when they're questioning their worth, their attractiveness, or their place in the world. Instead, they look for ways to feel that validation without having to say it out loud. And one of the quickest ways to feel it is through attention and intimacy. When a woman they're attracted to responds to them, chooses them, or gets close to them, it sends a powerful signal to their mind. I'm enough. I'm desired. I still matter. In that moment, it can feel real for both of you. You might feel like there's a genuine connection forming, like there's something deeper building between you. But for him, the experience is often more internal than relational. It's less about creating something meaningful with you and more about confirming something within himself. And here's the part that can hurt if you don't see it clearly. Validation doesn't last. It's like a quick emotional boost. Once he feels it, once that inner doubt quiets down for a while, the urgency fades. The same energy he brought in the beginning might slowly disappear, not because you did anything wrong, but because the need that was driving him has already been satisfied. That's why sometimes you'll notice a shift. In the beginning, he's fully present, attentive, engaged, and then suddenly it feels like he's pulling back, becoming distant, or less consistent. It leaves you questioning everything. Was it something I said? Did I misread him? But in many cases, it's not about you at all. It's about the fact that his initial drive was never rooted in building a lasting connection. It was rooted in filling a temporary emotional gap. This doesn't mean every man is like this. And it doesn't mean every situation follows this pattern. But when validation is the main reason behind his actions, you'll often feel a certain inconsistency. The energy comes in strong, but it doesn't stay steady. It feels exciting, but not secure. And once you understand this, you start noticing the difference. You start paying attention not just to how intense his interest feels, but how consistent it is. Because real connection doesn't just show up in moments, it shows up over time. It doesn't disappear once a need is met. It deepens, it grows, it becomes more stable. So the next time you feel that strong pull from someone, take a step back and ask yourself a simple question. Is he trying to know me? Or is he trying to feel something through me? That one question alone can save you from a lot of confusion and help you protect your energy in a way that feels calm, not guarded. Attraction can be powerful, almost overwhelming at times. It shows up fast, without warning. It's in the way he looks at you, The way conversations feel effortless, the way there's this natural pull that keeps bringing you closer without either of you really trying. And in those moments, it's easy to believe that something deeper is happening because it feels real, it feels strong, it feels different. But here's where things get tricky. Attraction and emotional depth are not the same thing. And a lot of men don't fully understand that difference. For many men, attraction is the starting point, and sometimes it becomes the entire story. They feel that spark, that excitement, that physical and emotional rush, and they assume it means there's something meaningful building underneath it. So they move forward quickly. They lean into the moment. They act on what they feel without stopping to question where it's actually coming from. And from your side, it can feel like everything is aligning. You feel the chemistry too. You feel the connection growing through shared laughter, late night conversations, and those small moments that seem to matter more than they should. It creates this sense of closeness that feels like it must be leading somewhere real. But what's often happening beneath the surface is much simpler. He's responding to the intensity of the moment, not the depth of the connection. He's caught up in how good it feels right now, not necessarily thinking about what it means long term. And the problem with attraction is it fades. Not always completely, but the intensity softens. That initial spark that felt so strong naturally settles down. And when it does, if there wasn't a deeper emotional foundation being built alongside it, things start to feel different. That's when confusion usually shows up. You might notice he becomes less engaged, less curious, less present than he was at the start. The effort changes, the energy shifts, and it leaves you wondering what went wrong. Because from your perspective, it felt like something real was forming. But from his perspective, nothing went wrong. The feeling he was following simply changed. What he thought was depth was actually just attraction at its peak. And once that peak passes, he doesn't always have something deeper to fall back on. This is why it's so important to slow down, not to stop the connection, but to observe it. Real emotional depth takes time. It shows up in consistency and effort, in the way someone continues to show interest even after the initial excitement settles. It's not just about how strong the beginning feels, it's about what remains when things become calm, because true connection doesn't rely on intensity to survive. It grows through understanding, patience, and shared experiences over time. It becomes steady, not just exciting. So when you feel that strong spark with someone, enjoy it, but don't let it define everything. Pay attention to what comes after the excitement. Notice whether he's still present, still interested in knowing you beyond the surface. Because attraction can start something, but only depth can sustain it. And knowing the difference will change the way you see everything. Sometimes it has very little to do with you and everything to do with what he's trying to get away from. Life can feel heavy. Pressure from work, expectations from family, personal doubts, stress that keeps building quietly in the background. It all adds up. And not every man knows how to deal with that weight in a healthy, open way. So instead of talking about it, he looks for a way to escape it. And this is where things can feel confusing for you. Because when he's with you, he might seem lighter, more present, even more alive. He laughs more. He relaxes. He gives you attention that feels warm and real. In those moments, it can feel like you're seeing the best version of him. And naturally, you start to believe that this connection is something meaningful, something worth holding on to. But what's often happening beneath the surface is different. He's not necessarily building something with you. He's stepping away from something else. Being around you becomes his break from reality. A space where he doesn't have to think about his problems, his responsibilities, or the things that are weighing him down. And intimacy in that situation becomes part of that escape. It helps him feel free, even if it's just for a short time. The challenge is, escape is temporary by nature. No matter how good it feels in the moment, eventually real life comes back. The stress returns. The responsibilities are still there. And when that happens, his focus shifts back to those things. Not because you stopped mattering, but because the role you played in his life was never meant to be permanent. It was a pause, not a path forward. That's why you might notice a pattern. He shows up strongly when he needs that emotional break. He's present, engaged, maybe even intense. But then he pulls back. He becomes distant, harder to reach, less consistent. It can feel like he's coming in and out of your life, and it leaves you wondering what you did wrong or why things keep changing. But the truth is, it's not about something you did. It's about what he's dealing with internally. You became associated with relief, not responsibility, with ease, not effort. And while that can feel good in the moment, it doesn't create the kind of foundation needed for something lasting. Real attachment requires presence not just in the good moments, but in the steady ones too. It requires someone who is willing to stay connected even when life feels heavy, not just when they need a break from it. And when a man is using connection as an escape, he often isn't in a place to offer that kind of stability. Understanding this changes how you see things. You stop taking his inconsistency personally. You stop trying to fix the distance or make sense of the hot and cold behavior. Instead, you recognize the pattern for what it is. So when you notice someone showing up only when it feels easy, only when it feels light, ask yourself something simple. Is he here to build with me or just to breathe for a while? Because the answer to that question can save you from investing in something that was never meant to grow beyond the moment. This is the one that confuses almost everyone because it feels real, not forced, not fake, not surface level, but genuinely warm, close, and emotionally charged. In certain moments, a man can feel a strong sense of connection with you. The conversation flows, the silence feels comfortable, there's laughter, maybe even vulnerability. And in that space, it doesn't feel like he's chasing something shallow. It feels like he's right there with you. And the truth is, in that moment, he probably is. But here's what most people don't realize. Not every emotional connection is built to last. Some feelings are situational. They're created by timing, environment, mood, and the energy between two people in a specific moment. And while they can feel deep, they're often temporary if there's no stronger foundation underneath. For many men, emotional awareness isn't always clear or consistent. They can feel something strongly in the moment and believe it means more than it actually does long term. So when that emotional closeness shows up, they follow it, they lean into it, they allow it to guide their actions, including intimacy, because it feels honest in that moment. From your side, it can feel like something meaningful is forming. You feel seen, understood, connected, and naturally, you begin to attach a sense of continuity to it. You believe that if it feels this real now, it must still be there tomorrow. But the challenge is, those emotions can fade once the moment passes. When the setting changes, when the emotional intensity settles, or when everyday life comes back in, that same feeling doesn't always carry forward. And it's not because he was pretending. It's because what he felt was tied to the moment, not rooted in something stable. That's why the shift can feel so confusing. One day, everything feels aligned, the connection feels effortless, and then slowly or sometimes suddenly, the energy changes. He becomes less expressive, less emotionally present, maybe even distant. And you're left trying to understand how something that felt so genuine could disappear so quickly. But from his perspective, nothing broke. The feeling simply wasn't designed to last beyond that moment. It wasn't built on shared values, consistent effort, or a deeper understanding of each other. It was built on a temporary emotional high, and this is where awareness becomes important. Because real emotional connection isn't just about how strong it feels in a moment. It's about whether it continues to exist when things become normal, calm, and steady. Real connection shows up in consistency. It grows over time. It doesn't rely on perfect moments to survive. So when you experience that kind of emotional closeness, don't ignore it, but don't assume it defines everything either. Give it time. Watch what happens after the moment passes. See if he's still present, still open, still willing to build something beyond that initial feeling. Because temporary emotion can feel powerful, but only consistency reveals what's truly real. And once you understand that, you stop getting lost in moments and start focusing on what actually lasts. This one often feels the most misleading because it can look like genuine interest. He spends time with you, he gets closer, he shares moments that feel personal, and it creates the impression that something is naturally moving forward. From your side, It can feel like a connection that's slowly building into something meaningful. But from his side, he might be approaching it very differently. He's not deciding, he's exploring. For some men, closeness becomes a way to figure things out. Instead of taking time to understand compatibility through conversation, shared values, or emotional connection, they rely on experience in the moment. They believe that being physically and emotionally close will give them clarity about whether this is someone they truly want. So they move forward without a clear intention, hoping the answer will reveal itself along the way. And this is where things can quietly become unbalanced, because while he's in a phase of discovery, you might already be forming a sense of direction. You're interpreting his actions as signs of growing interest, maybe even emotional investment. To you, it feels like progress. But to him, it's still a question mark. The difficult part is, his answer doesn't always match your expectations. He might reach a point where he decides, this isn't right for me. Not because you did something wrong, not because you weren't enough, but simply because his internal process led him there. And when that happens, he can step back or pull away in a way that feels sudden and confusing to you. What makes this even more challenging is that he may not communicate this clearly. From his perspective, so what do you do with all of this? You don't become cold, you don't shut yourself off, you simply become aware. Because the moment you understand these patterns, you stop getting pulled in by intensity alone, and you start paying attention to consistency, clarity, and intention. You begin to notice the difference between a man who shows up only when it feels good, and a man who shows up even when it's simple, calm, and real. You stop chasing moments that feel exciting but leave you confused, and start choosing connections that feel steady and clear. And here's the most important part. This isn't about changing who you are to keep someone. It's about valuing yourself enough to not settle for uncertainty. When a man truly wants something meaningful, you won't have to decode his actions or question his presence. It will feel aligned, not complicated. So next time you feel that spark, that pull, that moment where everything feels right, don't rush past it. Stay present, observe, and trust what you see over time, because the right connection won't just feel good in a moment, it will continue to feel right as it grows. If this opened your eyes even a little, stay connected. There's so much more to understand about attraction, connection, and the choices that shape your relationships. And the more you understand, the more power you have to choose what truly deserves you.